What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Brad and Ben here.
Hello.
Ben, we both like Yacht Club.
We do. Shovel Knight, yes.
We love it.
Big fans of Shovel Knight.
They recently announced their new game, not a Shovel Knight sequel or anything like that.
No.
A little unexpected. A new IP called Mina the Hollower. We both got to play a demo of this game.
Yeah, about 40 minutes.
About 40-minute demo, yeah. And I think just generally we came away pretty impressed. I guess no surprise from this studio.
This 40-minute demo was no joke better than a lot of full games I played. Yeah.
It was
good.
Let's talk about what it is actually. So, Shovel Knight was very much in the vein of the NES, Mega Man kind of games like that. Some Mario, DuckTales, definitely, and some Mario 3 with that map. This is kind of like this is going for more Game Boy Color vibes instead of NES. Specifically, it's very Zelda, Link's Awakening, the Oracle games, and some Castlevania in there too. Walk me through this. Like, how are you feeling about when you hopped in?
It's something that I said to you before the show. They had an instruction manual in the email, and I did look a couple of things up there, but for the most part, this is a game that I feel like is so well designed that you can kind of intuitively figure out the mechanics just by playing. And it's just so well conceptualized, like Shovel Knight is, where you're like, I get why you did that, I get why you did that, I get why you did that. Like, Shovel Knight, I think about like how clever the checkpoint system is, or like when you die, how like gems are there and you have to try to go back and get them. Like, there's little touches that make it not just a throwback. And it's kind of the same thing here, where like the biggest mechanic, I guess, there's a lot of mechanics to get into, but the biggest mechanic is, imagine Link's Awakening, but you can burrow into the ground and then hop out of the ground, and that is used for getting around environmental obstacles, jumping over places, getting under into secret rooms. And yeah, it's so cool. It sounds really, really simple, just being able to like duck into the ground and move, but you move faster, and so it's a way to retreat from enemies. I feel like you jump a little bit farther.
You do. So you go like let's say there's like a square, gaps a square. You do an extra square with this. So you like go twice as far.
Because there's one jump in particular in the demo where like to get across, you have to do the
dig,
jump,
and it's like you said, the game super well, just kind of teaching you it naturally through gameplay. You know, you're not reading like a manual. We had like a manual we could see for it, but it wasn't like that. I want to talk about the Castlevania influences kind of in this thing. Yeah. First of all, like the weapon you have that you start with, there's more weapons in the game, but we didn't have access to any of them. But it was a chain ball whip. Yeah. So right away you're like, yes, I'm used to this. Then there was a kind of like a sword that almost worked like a boomerang. You'd throw the sword, it'd spin around and come back to you. There was the axe, which was like the axe from Castlevania, just flies up in the air, but does like a nice AoE splash damage.
So the axe was the first sub-weapon that I got. Yeah. And they do function, so the axe and the sword do function like sub-weapons.
Yes, exactly.
And in the sense that like you have this little like in Castlevania you have the hearts when you use the sub-weapons. It's a similar system here, and you'll like find jars throughout the environment that'll increase that. The axe was so good for me.
You like the axe? Okay.
Yeah, that I got the sword and I was just like, I'm sorry, I'm sticking with the axe. So I didn't even use the sword.
I used the sword. I like the sword a lot because it would go forward, then it can come back and do extra damage. And there was the shield, which you could use to charge guys, which is cool. Especially,
I didn't even see the shield.
Yeah, you could like charge guys off a cliff or something like that.
Nice. The axe, like, it's interesting because, you know, the axe, right, it curves just like it does in Castlevania, and so it functions as you expect, but it has just this extra little thing where when it hits the ground, it has a cross of splash damage, and that was really useful because there are these really big kind of bullish-like skeleton enemies that will really mess you up, but you can use the sub-weapon because, like, the axe could get over things that your whip couldn't, and so you could use the environment to your advantage in that way, which is really
cool. One thing I just want to touch on real quick that you talked about earlier is the digging. Yeah. So the digging is super cool. Definitely something I was like, this is cool, but as I played more, I started integrating it more into combat.
Right.
But the thing I like about the digging is it has a certain amount of time you can dig for.
Yes.
So you can't just camp underground, and it's a really useful tool to get around. But, go ahead.
No, that just prompted it. It has kind of like this Hollow Knight badge system where
I think they're called trinkets.
Yeah, trinkets are charms,
something
maybe?
like that.
Something I don't remember, but whatever. Tomato. The trinket system, you can equip 2 of them. And in the demo, you have access to like 4 or 5, and one of those is you can increase your burrow time.
Yes.
And so that is interesting. Like just looking at your options and being like, what is my play style, and just kind of going towards that.
Let's talk about the structure of the game really quick. So it is very like Zelda, you know, you go from screen to screen transitions like a Zelda game like that. So we start off in a little cave, then we eventually came to like a graveyard. Lots of colorful characters in this game, just like you'd expect from a Yacht Club game.
Yep.
Some of these guys have little side quests tied to them. If you do some things, they don't flat out usually tell you.
Like, I didn't realize that. I talked to everybody that I saw, but I didn't realize that they were offering side quests.
Sometimes it's not necessarily like a side quest in the sense of you accept a quest from them.
Right.
Like that. They'll say something to you.
And they'll give you a hint. Okay.
So like one of the first guys is a guy digging in a graveyard. And he's like, I got to dig all these graves. I dug up all the graves for him.
Oh,
and he
clever.
gave me an item. And he's like, now I can rest eternally. He just goes to sleep like that.
That's really cool. Yeah, you just made me realize when I say like this game and Shovel Knight are so conceptualized, like the core of this game is so simple. I think at a basic level, everybody understands how to play.
Yep.
You know, top-down Zelda, hit things, jump across ledges. But there's just all these little touches where you're like, I wonder. Oh, like, because there are little things in the ground. It's like Shovel Knight in that sense, because in Shovel Knight, there'd be certain blocks where if you hit them, there's treasure in them, and you just kind of pick that up based on how it's designed. The same thing here, where there's stuff on the ground, and if you go underneath it and it'll pop it out of the ground, and that's really satisfying.
Eventually, though, the graveyard's kind of like the middle part. Then eventually gets to this like manor or this like dungeon almost. So it's like a Zelda dungeon almost. Just much. It seemed very early in the game. It wasn't very complicated. It's less of a puzzle and more linear, I would say. But there's things to do in this room.
Yeah, there was this mechanic that was really neat in kind of the end dungeon, where there were these statues that were broken. They didn't have their heads, and kind of like the sun from Mario 3.
Exactly.
When you pick up, you have to go underneath the statue heads, and you have to carry it to the broken statue and reattach the head. And that may mean going through several rooms, backtracking through several rooms. But as soon as you pick up the head, this green ghost spirit thing will follow you and try to attack you.
Yeah.
And that was so much fun trying to avoid
just
that thing. Yeah.
Simple little mechanic tied in that dungeon that wasn't anywhere else. But you have to do it a couple times. There's one where you have to go 2 different ways and put them back together.
Yeah, because there's a statue you need to complete on the left and the right. Yep.
Yeah, but I feel like there's a lot of secrets in this game to find. I played this demo twice.
Nice.
And I did find different things each time. So like I said, there was like this NPC I found who came with me to the boss. After I beat the boss, I put him to rest like in a coffin forever. And like I got an item from that. I'm like, this is really rewarding me for exploring this. Like the secrets aren't too hard. Like if you pay attention, you could see like a crack on the wall.
Yeah.
Like kind of like intuitive things like that. But it definitely rewards you if you pay attention.
Or like if you need to go underneath.
Yes,
the rug.
There's
will,
like go
into
a little visual cue to help you through that.
No, yeah, I only played through the demo once. I played it while I was waiting for Jones in the showcase, and this is very illuminating. Like you're making me want to go back and be like, oh, because I would explore and try to pick up a bunch of treasure, and it's like, oh man, even with that, I missed so much.
Yeah, there's a lot to see here.
A criticism that I have, so there's a boss fight at the end, as you would expect, and the boss fight has 2 phases, and it was an enjoyable boss fight. There, like I would use the burrow to get away from its like tentacle attacks in the second phase. It was fun, and of course, this is pre-release, but I just felt like saving up sub-weapon energy trivialized the boss fight. Like you do such huge chunks of damage that it's like, okay, I think because you can attack from range and you get the splash damage with the axe, it's like, I think you should nerf the damage.
Yeah.
To
you can melt some bosses quick if you get a grasp on what you're doing. But one cool thing is we talked about the relics or the trinket or whatever they're called, these like sub things you equip. I got one, which was a spider that would put down webs for me. I don't know if you got this, but
no.
I could walk over ledges and a spider would put little webs down for me for like 3 spaces. So I could make shortcuts through a lot of the challenges the dungeon would play through or lay out.
Like Donkey Kong Country 2.
Exactly. But it would you just walk right over like bloop, bloop, bloop.
That's really cool.
And I was like, oh, this is really sick. It rewarded me for putting in some extra work in the dungeon, made it easier.
It's funny because there's it's like the ladder in Zelda where you can just go across gaps. That's cool.
Yeah.
We have not talked about the level up system, which is really interesting.
Yes, in your burrow or whatever I think it's called a hollow. I'm trying to remember where your hub or essentially whatever it is called. But yeah, there's essentially like little holes in the ground that serve as your checkpoints throughout the world, and you can burrow down into these, and it's kind of a little base for you. You got your weapons chest, which you
can't access
yet for your trinkets or whatever, and there's also these gems that you can collect throughout the levels. That you can transfer into bones, which are essentially XP for you.
Yep.
But what's funny about it is you like use this like machine. It looks like a slot machine almost, and it spits out bones. You have to actively run around and grab them, so you can miss some if you're not careful.
Yep. Yeah, and it's just they just explode
Yep.
out, and you're trying to pick up all these bones, and they're like bouncing off the walls and stuff. It's fun. And the things that we were talking about before that pop out of the ground, those are bones.
Yep.
And you have a threshold, and instead of leveling up, they'll say bone up.
Yeah, bone up.
And then once you hit that threshold, you'll have enough to level up one category, whether it's your attack, your defense.
It was very Zelda 2, this leveling up system,
Yeah,
where you
yeah,
level
it's
up
very Zelda
something,
2.
like you level up your attack damage,
but
then it goes up, like the cost of it, but everything else stays down. So you can really invest and like save up. But it's essentially Zelda 2, but I think it works good.
The other, so this game kind of does have a Souls-like element to it, where you can go back to this like sort of home base spots, these burrow spots that we're talking about. But if you do that, you get all your health back when you touch the water, but enemies respawn.
Yes.
And so and you could, I didn't do it in the demo, but you could if you wanted to, I think. Because enemies give you bones when you defeat them, you could grind it out.
Yeah, you could probably farm them.
And the health system is super interesting.
Yeah, I was about to say we should bring this up.
Yeah. The health system is super interesting and kind of Bloodborne-esque, where you have red health and yellow health called plasma. And when you take damage, your health will go down, but then if you hit an enemy, as you hit enemies, you'll build up this plasma. You'll build up yellow health in the spot where the red health was, and you have these like plasma potions, and if you drink those, you'll recover the yellow portion of your health. And it's really interesting because like you don't just get a health potion. You have to work to use that health potion effectively, and you have to like make these tactical decisions where you're like, okay, I've restored a little bit of yellow health or this yellow plasma. Do I want to pop the potion now, or do I want to wait and try to build that up more?
I really like that. I think it's a cool little twist on it.
It's just thinking outside the box, right? Like think about how many games health potions work exactly the same way, right? It's just you drink it, you get a certain percentage of HP back, whereas here, like tying it to how offensive you are, and that risk reward system is just, it's wonderful. Yeah. Controls like a dream.
Yeah, it controls really well. Yeah. You have only 4 directions of movement. I definitely have to like get used to that again, but it works well.
I was using an Xbox Series X controller, and I was using the analog stick at first, and I feel like I had moments where like I would turn and like because it was an analog stick, I'd be a direction that I didn't want to be, and so I had to switch the D-pad.
I used the D-pad for sure when I played.
I think that is the right call.
But yeah, I think we both came away pretty happy and pretty impressed so far with what they've laid out for us.
Yeah.
There's a Kickstarter going on, which was a little surprising for this. I was surprised they did one.
Right.
But they said they wanted to incorporate the community like Shovel Knight had a lot of that going on. So they're adding more stuff. We're going to keep an eye on this game for sure. No idea when it's coming out.
No, it's so eerie how much this is like Shovel Knight in the sense that I think Shovel Knight was so enduring and so widely beloved because it was not just, hey, remember those games you liked as a kid? We did that.
Yeah.
It was like, it's clear, like, this game wears its heart on its sleeve. You know exactly where its inspirations are coming from. But it pushes so far beyond that to be a great game in its own right. And
takes ideas from others, but makes it its own.
And
really
like,
stands out.
Thinking about just how good this 40 minutes is, like imagine 10 hours of this game and how awesome that would be.
Yeah.
Absolutely wonderful. Because something that, like, because you mentioned the NPCs and stuff that you talk to, something about Shovel Knight, as well as the bosses and all the characters that you interact with.
So much personality.
So much personality. I'm kind of curious to see that what the full cast is going to be like. Yeah, and Mina herself.
Yeah, she's cool. Yeah, definitely. Awesome. Cool. That's it. We'll see y'all next time.